All right, Gordy, the western half of the NBA with the playoffs about to start. Looks like we're going to have all eight teams that make the playoffs in the West are going to be 50-win teams, which is
awfully impressive.
Pretty impressive,
yes.
And which makes for some interesting matchups here. Mm-hmm. Who do you sort of think is? I hate to say a threat to the Lakers because that's almost overblown. But I mean, other than the Lakers, who do we want to talk about here a little bit?
Well, I think Dallas has had a heck of a year and kind of under the radar almost. I mean, they've got a nice team and they made some shrewd acquisitions. They brought in Caron Butler in midstream, and he's a nice player. And they still have Nowitzki, they still have Jason Kidd, still have Jason Terry, and Sean Marion's on their team. It's a lot of guys.
They do have a lot of players, and of course Dirk Nowitzki, I think, has had one of his better years of the last few. Mm-hmm. I think, and he's become a guy who averages like 25 a game without using up a ton of shots.
Right.
He doesn't get to the line a whole lot, which is maybe a little bit of a negative about him because you can see him kind of moving around to avoid contact and shooting these little fallaways and stuff. But still a very good guy to build around.
Very explosive.
Jason Kidd had a triple-double the other day at the age of 37. Mm-hmm. He seems to have lost some athleticism, but still a very, very effective player. So they're a team that, and I've always liked Rick Carlisle. Yeah. I've always thought Rick Carlisle knew what he was doing and is a positive. So they're a threat, and then we have the Utah-Denver group.
Right.
And Denver, of course, maybe without their coach or some of the time without their coach. What do you like about those two teams, I guess, Utah and Denver? Let's talk about them in terms of their threat to go deep.
Well, Utah. You talk about Deron Williams and Carlos Boozer. It's like, the latter-day Stockton Malone kind of deal.
Right.
And they have some other nice pieces on the periphery there, the Ronnie Brewers and the people like that can hurt you some. But, I mean, basically that's what we're looking at. Deron Williams, has quietly become, one of the better point guards in the league. I mean, Chris Paul has been hurt a lot this year, so I think you got to look at Deron Williams as a guy, stronger guy, can get to the rim, can shoot it some. And Boozer's had a really nice career and was a second-round draft pick. Pretty nice player.
Yeah, but how good can he be? He went to Duke. Am I right, Gordy? Come on. We know Duke doesn't produce any pro players.
That's true. It never happens, apparently, from what I understand.
So anyway, we like Utah, and Utah is one of those. Jerry Sloan is one of those guys who one of the very, very few guys who really is an impact coach in that league. It doesn't happen very often, and he's one of them.
And speaking of Deron Williams, when he came in a few years ago, I mean, you always have to earn your stripes with Jerry Sloan, and that's how it was with Deron Williams. His first year was not that great, but since then he's really kind of emerged. And getting back to Dallas just for a second, I mean, we talked before about how so often in the NBA it's like the isolation, the 1-4 set with your superstar out top. Well, obviously Dallas doesn't play that way.
No.
Dirk is more of an off-the-ball kind of guy. Which means Jason Kidd is kind of the perfect guy for their team. And the thing about Jason Kidd, not a great shooter, but he always seems to come up with the really big three at some point in the game.
You make a big shot,
He's really kind of had an interesting career.
Well, yeah, and I think a Hall of Fame career.
Sure,
really.
absolutely.
A great player. But
now here's an interesting thought for you. Phoenix is sort of in the mix, but we know that they're not going to win it, but they still play that interesting style where they can run up and down and shoot a bunch of threes. Who's had the greater career, Jason Kidd, Steve Nash? I mean, to me, Kidd has, but on the other hand, Nash is a much better shooter than Kidd will ever be, and he's had another great year this year. He's one of those guys, with the 50% from the field, 40 from 3, 90 from the line. He's done that like 4 or 5 times in his career.
Which you could make an argument that statistically he's one of the best, maybe the best shooter in the history of the NBA, or right up there.
He's a tremendous player. And here's the other thing about Nash. You have nondescript guys that go to Phoenix, and all of a sudden they're having career years.
Oh, yeah.
Channing Frye, Jared Dudley being the examples this year.
No question. It's so interesting to see these journeyman guys all of a sudden hit a situation where it snaps into place and works. And Steve Nash is a guy who makes that happen. But here's the thing about Steve Nash. they're probably going to play Utah in the first round of the playoffs. They are going to play Utah.
Very troublesome
So
matchup.
you look at that matchup and you think Williams is just going to destroy Nash because Nash can't play defense or doesn't play defense.
Right.
And so that's got to be almost a decisive thing, and maybe even in assessing Nash's career a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't even talked about the Lakers yet. We're way into this segment now and haven't even talked about the Lakers yet. And of course, Kobe, once in a while lately he shows up and actually plays in a game. Once in a while he doesn't. But obviously this is a team that I think most people would regard as the favorite to win it all.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I do. I think I might think one of those teams in the East will get to the finals a little less battle scarred.
It might be.
But anyway, Lakers compared to last year, compared to their recent past.
Boy, it's a tough call because, Kobe's got some mileage on him now. I mean,
does.
he's early 30s.
He's not a kid.
But he's got a lot of mileage. I heard today that he has actually played more minutes to this point in his career than Charles Barkley did. Charles Barkley was toasted, 34?
Right, yeah.
So, but Kobe's early 30s, boy, he's still the ultimate closer, though, isn't he?
He is.
I mean, no matter what you say about him, you got to give him that.
And you saw that, this is going back a little bit now, but you saw that during the Olympics. When you had all these guys, you had Dwayne Wade and LeBron, and they all clearly regarded Kobe as the guy that we're going to get the ball to, and he's going to get the shots at the very
How can you not?
The very end.
I mean, as great a player as LeBron is, and as great as it would be, I think, to play with him as opposed to Kobe,
right?
Being a teammate,
right?
I mean, he's a much more consistent shooter, and he has many more ways to score consistently, I think, than LeBron does.
So even though the Lakers aren't that clearly superior in terms of wins and losses to all these solid teams in the West, I think they're a much more clear favorite than either of the two powers in the East.
It seems so, because I just think that if it comes down to them in Dallas, they beat Dallas. Because
I think so too.
How do you guard Kobe? And plus all those, the complimentary guys. I mean, Pau Gasol is a really good player.
Yeah, he's more
as is Lamar Odom.
And Odom and
Artest.
Artest, that's like a pro wrestling villain, but but maybe there's some good aspects to that. So I don't know. So anyway, let's go. We got the Lakers in the finals, and we have the Cleveland/Orlando in the finals. Yeah. Who's going to be your NBA champion?
Boy, I still think the Lakers are the team, and probably because of what we just talked about, because Kobe closes games better than anybody. And that said, I mean, there's something about Kobe that I would root against if I'm a fan. I'd root for LeBron but I still think you got to give the devil his due. He's just such a great closer and such a great player.
And I think they might be a little bit better overall team right now than they were a year ago at this time. Although maybe Kobe is not quite another year on the odometer and everything. But I got to agree. I got to go with the Lakers too. I'm not crazy about it, but there it is. I think
the disclaimer here is that we were wrong about everything in the NCAA. So
that's right. We sort of unintentionally or otherwise, wink, we are giving the Lakers the official low post kiss of death. Thank you, and good night.